I'm doing a live stream as well, so this is going to be recorded. I'll put it up on my website. I am going to be emailing this out to every sheriff's department, police department, and every elected official across the country. So we'll try and hopefully get a good message that goes out. Sounds great? Cool. All right. I'm going to open this up with a prayer. So this is from one of my good friends, Mitchell Tucker. He's up here on the live stream in the chat, so I appreciate you doing that. So he's a good friend of mine, him, Mandy Mitchell. They both seen me join the fight with an organization called Veterans for Child Rescue, where we go out to expose and eradicate child trafficking. So they saw me getting pretty much my hands dirty in there, and they just joined in full force. They got a full family. You know, they're my sister and my brother. You know, I love them to death. I'd do anything for them, just like I would do just about anything for anybody. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I'll get this started.
My name is Mitchell Tucker. Tyler recently reached out to me, asked me if I'd be interested in opening us up in a word of prayer, and I'd be honored to. First, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm proud to be part of a group of men and women who put child safety first. I truly believe we're doing God's work. I think there's nothing out there that's more important than what we're doing right now. So let's pray. Dear gracious God, Lord, I thank you so much for this time that we can gather together, Lord, that we can do your work and we can focus on keeping children safe. Lord, I pray that you'd put a hedge of protection around these warriors, that you would protect their families, protect their minds, protect their work. Lord, we know that there is evil out there that does not want us to succeed. But we know that you are the King, and we know that this is your work, and we know that you will help us persevere and make this happen. Lord, I pray that you would bless this time, that you would help us get the work done that needs to be done, and we honor and we praise you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all so much for being here. Now let's get to work.
Good afternoon.
My name is Tyler Stute. About 16 months ago, I joined an organization called Veterans for Child Rescue, where we go out to expose and eradicate child trafficking inside the U.S. I have been very dedicated. I pretty much gave up my life to this cause. My heart is in it for the children. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. When I was deployed with the 2nd 130th out of Concordia, we went to Egypt, and I had a lot of bad things happen to me. A lot of people pass away and leave. And I was on Mount Sinai. When I was up there, I had a word with God. And we didn't see eye to eye at that time, but, you know, I told him, you know, maybe one day we can look at doing something together. So about 2 years ago, I was out in the desert in Arizona. I had a mental breakdown, and there was one person amongst a few other people that reached out to me and checked on me. His name is Craig Salman Sawyer. He's the founder of Veterans for Child Rescue. I don't know if he'll tell a little bit about himself, but he's a former SEAL Team 6 guy, CIA, federal background, pretty extensive. He made a phone call to me, and it pretty much turned my life around. So what I did with that is I decided to dedicate myself to him. And, you know, I didn't know anything about child trafficking. You know, I was in the military. You know, we may have had a briefing on it, but I don't remember too much of that. You know, it was a PowerPoint presentation. So with that, Craig stood by my side, and he gave me that little bit of hope to keep going. So when I joined him, you know, we started up a child rescue account on TikTok. I think it's over 70,000 followers now. So I'm pretty happy about working with them and being able to bring an important message on how we can protect children. So With that time, I have grown to love and appreciate everything that Yahweh has given me. So to him, I dedicate my life to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you not just as a speaker, but as an advocate, a torchbearer, and a firm believer in a cause that is close to every human heart, safeguarding our children. Our movement, Tribe for Children, echoes the sentiment. We envision a world where every child is safe, loved, respected, and has the opportunity to thrive. Parents, I urge you to stand with me today, not just as caregivers, but as the champions your children need. It is your responsibility, our collective duty, to ensure the protection, the well-being, and the prosperous future of our young ones. It is our joint mission to nurture them into wholesome, happy individuals who can also make this world a better place. In our society, sadly, the innocence and vulnerability of children are often exploited. We are witnessing an epidemic of indoctrination, mutilation, grooming, exploitation, and trafficking of children. These atrocities are not just crimes. They are a betrayal of our fundamental duty as parents, as guardians, and as a society. This is not a time for complacency. This is not a time for silence. We can no longer turn a blind eye to the suffering of our children. We must rise, gather our forces, and wage a war against the forces that threaten our young ones. As parents, we must shield our children, not only from physical harm, but also from intellectual and emotional manipulation. Our children are not commodities. They are not pawns in anyone's game. They are precious beings deserving our utmost love and protection. It is our task as parents and as a community to fight for them, to advocate for them when they cannot advocate for themselves. Our movement, Tribe for Children, believes in the power of collection, action. We believe that every voice counts, every action matters. Remember, every drop in the ocean continues to the mighty roar of the waves. Together we can build a barrier, a fortress against the threats of our children's face. Parents, we need you to be that tribe, that collective force. Stand up and reclaim the sacred duty of parenthood. Strive not just to just provide, but to protect, to educate, to empower. Create an environment for your children where they can grow, learn, dream without fear. Never forget that the children of today will shape the world of tomorrow. The values we instill in them, the strength we give them, will define our future society. If we wish for a world that is kinder, wiser, and safer, we must first ensure that our children can grow into kind, wise, and safe individuals. Join us at Tribe for Children. Let us stand united in our resolve to make a difference. Let us become guardians of hope and the bearers of a brighter future. We have the power to bring about the change, to put an end to the horrors of our children's face. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a tribe to protect them. Be that tribe, be that change. Stand tall, stand proud, stand up for children. Thank you. I want to share a couple messages from a couple of Kansas State Senators, Elaine Bowers and Senator Caryn Tyson. They could not be here today. Senator Tyson came up here a little earlier and we recorded a quick video, so I'll just play them and let you guys go.
Thank you to Tyler Stu and all the sponsors for this event today. I'm sorry I can't be with you. I'm in the far west corner of this giant Senate District 36, which is about 11,000 square miles. But it's one of those cases I wish I could clone myself. I appreciate Tyler's hard work on this issue, and I know he's been very involved for many years. This event is extremely timely with the new movie, Sound of Freedom, which is currently bringing much to light on children in peril, even as we speak today. I wish Tyler and the organizers much success for a large audience if not in person, online, to guard the safety of our children. Thank you again for these few moments with you, and never hesitate to contact me at the State House at the Senate email, which is elaine.bowers@senate.ks.gov. Thank you again, and have a wonderful event.
My name is Tyler Stute. I'm with Veterans for Child Rescue, a member of Dad Army, and the founder of Tribe for Children. I want to welcome Senator Tyson here at the Glasgow VFW 7697. We're about to do an event here in probably a couple hours, and I so much appreciate you coming on. Would you like to say a couple words to the people?
Well, thank you, Tyler, and thank you for hosting this event and all of your work that you do to save the children. It is so critical. I appreciate you and all of the efforts that you're putting together, all the teams and contacts. It is huge. It is huge, and so proud that you're from Glasgow. Hometown people. I love it. So we're very blessed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys want to see more, we're going to be at tribeforchildren.com, and you can follow Caryn or Senator Tyson at.
Oh, I'm at Team Tyson, www.teamtyson.org, or Caryn Tyson on Facebook and social media. So, yeah, or email me to my legislative account. You can find that caryn.tyson at senate.ks.gov. And I just want to tell you, please get involved. Please help Tyler and all the others in this effort to protect the children.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Tyler Stute.
I want to say thank you to Senator Tyson and Senator Bowers for giving that message. They could not be in attendance today, but we at VFW 7697 appreciate you. I want to get into a Children's Bill of Rights. This was wrote in collaboration with the Mom and Dad Army, as well as Veterans for Child Rescue. And there's a few individuals that helped contribute, like Simon Essler. He's a great individual. We're still editing this a little bit before we get it super finalized and out to the public as an official charter Mom and Dad Army. So those that are wanting to, that agree with this message and you think that we're standing up for the kids, please join us and join Mom Army on Instagram. Children's Bill of Rights. Preamble. We, the people of the United States, recognize that children are vulnerable members of society who require special protection and care. In a civilized society, parents or legal guardians are recognized as the traditional voice of the child. To ensure the well-being and the rights of children, we hereby establish the following Bill of Rights for children. Right to life. Every child has the inherent right to life, to be cherished and protected, ensuring that they are given the opportunity to grow, learn, and fulfill their potential. The right to safe and healthy environment. Every child has the right to live in a safe and healthy environment. It includes access to clean water, nutritious food, health care, and clean and secure living space. Right to protection from abuse and neglect. Every child has the right to protection from physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Children must be protected from all forms of violence, including bullying and cyberbullying. Right to protection from child labor. Every child has a right to be protected from economic exploitation and from performing any work that is likely to be hazardous or interfere with the child's education, or to be harmful to the child's health or physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. Right to protection from discrimination. Every child has a right to be protected from discrimination based on race, color, sex, language, religion, disability, political or other opinion, and national, ethnic, or social origin. Right to family life. Every child has a right to live with the parents unless separation is necessary for the child's best interests. If a child is separated from their parents, they have the right to maintain regular contact with both parents unless it is contrary to the best interest as determined by the courts of law. Rights to education. Every child has a right to access a thriving learning environment that enhances their gifts and skills to build character and confidence for their successful future. Right to express their views. Every child has a right to express their views, opinions, and ideas on all matters affecting them, and their opinions must be given due weight in accordance with their age and maturity. Right to participate in cultural activities. Every child has a right to participate in cultural and artistic activities that promote their social, emotional, and intellectual development. Right to rest and leisure. Every child has the right to rest and leisure, including the right to engage in play, recreational activities, and cultural life. Right to access justice. Every child has a right to access justice and to have their rights protected through effective legal and administrative purposes or procedures. Crimes against children must be rectified with justice. The right for justice is a beacon of hope that illuminates the path for every child, guiding them towards a world where fairness and accountability reign supreme. It bestows upon them the shield of protection, protecting them from the shadows of this sacred right of injustice and ensuring that their innocent voices are not silenced but amplified. Within this sacred right lies the promise of a system tailored to their tender hearts and impressionable minds, where their grievances find solace and their dreams find unwavering support. In a pledge to champion their cause, to fight tirelessly for their right, and to tear down the barriers that threaten their stifle their potential. The right to justice empowers the children with the knowledge that they are not merely spectators in the theater of life, but protagonists of their destinies. It proclaims that their work is immeasurable, their dignity inviolable, and their dreams boundless. The right is not just an aspiration, it is a resolute commitment to usher in a world where a child, regardless of circumstance, can bask in the light of justice and embrace the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Conclusion. We hereby declare that these rights are universal and inalienable and apply to equally to every child without exception. We call upon individuals, organizations, and governments to respect and promote these rights and to take all necessary measures to ensure their implementation and enforcement. All right, my next guest is going to be Craig Solomon Sawyer. I told you guys a little bit about him. He's a dear friend of mine. You know, he brought me in to his home with loving arms. And I will always have his back. And brother, I thank you.
Hi, I'm Craig Sawyer, founder of Veterans for Child Rescue, an organization chartered to expose and combat child trafficking here in the United States. I founded Veterans for Child Rescue out of a broken heart for the children and a disgust for the harm being done to them, and a strong urge to combat this any way I can. And so no longer do I deploy all the way around the world, 60 countries I've been to now. I fight now here in our country for our children and other children brought here for the specific purpose of being harmed in unspeakable ways through some very dark and despicable souls who are into doing this thing. Folks, if you want to really make a difference in this tragedy, in this crisis, you have to understand why it exists, why it is so pervasive, why are so many involved in this, why all the cover up, why all the top cover, why so many are unwilling to enforce the law and protect the children and convict those that are guilty. There's a lot of corruption, folks, surrounding this. It's ugly, it's vile, it's despicable, and I'm going to unpack it for you just a little bit. So what you have are different layers, if you will, of imagine it as an onion, just for practical purposes. You're looking at an onion where you realize there are different layers to it. We're going to peel back the layers of this onion as I unpack this and describe to you what we're learning. I don't know it all, guys. I've been at this for 6 years. I learned about it 9 years ago and started trying to expose it, and nobody in big Hollywood would help me do it. So I had to found Vets for Child Rescue to make the documentary Contraland to expose this. So on the first layer, and these are not necessarily in order, but they are in order according to my perception of it as I sit here today. The first layer are the low-level pedophiles, those who are mentally ill or morally sick, and they are inclined to have sex with children in whatever way. Okay, so they're the molesters and the child rapists. They do it because they're not well. And you have every manner of distortion and perversion under that banner. Then you have the financial crime, okay? And that is mothers and fathers selling their own children for money or for anything else of value, depending on their situation. You have children now selling themselves. You have MS-13 gangbangers and Crips and Bloods selling children, whereas they used to sell narcotics. You have Mexican drug cartels doing it. You have government agencies moving children and government contracts, busing and flying children, undocumented immigrants who are not with their biological parents, brought in and brought to sponsors, not to their biological parents, but sponsors who are, in most cases, child rapists or child murderers or those who are conducting organ harvesting. So that's all the financial aspect. There's a lot to unpack there. We'll move on. And so the next layer is political leverage. That's where you get into intel collecting from different intelligence agencies around the world. And that's what you ultimately had with entities like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. They were running as an intelligence gathering operation. That's why it's so protected, and we can't get to the bottom of it, and the news media won't really uncover what was really behind it, and they seem to either not get prosecuted or they end up dead. And we the citizens are not going to be told the truth, because this is how the big league players gain leverage and control. Big league, I mean just the weak-charactered men at the top of the financial and political and global banking structure who are able to manipulate others and get what they're after. They're weak and pathetic men, but they will abuse any authority or privilege that we, the citizens, allow them. And so that's what we're seeing. They're running these intelligence gathering operations where they target individuals in political seats of power that they want to control, or the heads of corporations or the heads of different institutions. They will target them, invite them to a private location. Now, there are mansions, there are estates, there are islands, there are resorts that they do this in. And they like to send them by private jet because it feels so fancy and important. And it feels like they're being removed from society where they will not be seen or held to account for their behavior. And at these parties, at these resorts, at these gatherings, there's every manner of debauchery and sickening behavior that those who are morally lost indulge in. And it's made very clear you can have whatever you want at this getaway. See eyes wide shut for a glimpse of what some of these gatherings look like. There's different styles at different levels. But there, these people are, the whole house is wired with covert cameras, or the entire resort has cameras everywhere, wherever someone may end up compromising themselves, doing drugs, having sex with hookers, and especially having sex now with children. It's all recorded. So whenever the person leaves there, he no longer serves his constituents as an elected representative. He serves whoever holds that video over him. Do you understand? It's blackmail. It's political, corporate blackmail in different ways, but it's all the same principle. They call it in the intelligence community brownstoning operations, where you target an individual and then you whisk them away to a place where they feel like they're safe. You have them covertly caught on camera doing something that will compromise them, and by which they can later, and from then on, be controlled. All right, brownstoning operations. So you have all of that. Then, when you peel into the darkest, most despicable, heinous layer of this onion, you get to the spiritual motive. And folks, that's what's driving so much of the rest of this. And I don't care anymore. If you're not spiritually educated or experienced, it may sound foreign to you and unrealistic, because if you don't understand quantum physics at all, and you don't understand the spiritual realm and understand that we are eternal beings in temporary physical bodies, then none of this will ever make any sense to you. You'll always be lost. You'll always be surprised by what comes on the news every day and totally caught off balance. But if you do study the spiritual realm, if you study the Bible and you listen to what our investigations are revealing, you'll understand, okay, here's what's happening. This is a struggle between the forces of good and evil. This is a clash between good and evil. Literally, it's a spiritual war being conducted. And on the dark side, Satan means to be doing up yours to the Creator. And that is why the harm to children. And regardless of your political beliefs or your beliefs on the difference between healthcare and murder, and how the language gets distorted and twisted politically. And this is done by committee of think tanks that know the psychology behind changing the words and the message delivery so that you'll accept murder and call it health care or any of the other tactics of deceit. Here's the deal. There's a campaign of murdering, traumatizing, raping, and defiling children that has now reached an industrial scale. That is the truth. Many, many, many people now who have researched and studied and have personal experience know it. We know it. I'm sharing a bit with you so that you can understand. I want to share just a quick anecdote from a list of survivors that we have been interviewing who have been harmed in a cult group. There are cult groups that harm children and rape children for their own temporary and misguided and ultimately futile and fatal motives, because by doing this, these people who harm the children, they will go to hell eternally. So it is, I say it's fatal for that reason. If you follow my logic, they're dooming their souls to hell by harming the purest and most precious and most innocent, which are the children. So this will reveal their true ultimate motive. There is a scenario in one of these ceremonies, and we've heard of it many times now. We know another group that's in a deliverance ministry, and they say that they've heard it almost hundreds of times. So this is a very prevalent scenario that's played out in these ritual abuse ceremonies that demonstrates what the evil one's true intent really is. I'm sharing this because everybody needs to know, so we can comprehend the nature of this conflict so that we can know how to pray against it and how to combat it. In this scenario, and I'm going to clean this up like 99.9%. I'm not going to get into the vulgar, bloody, vile, stomach-turning evil that's done to these children in these ceremonies, but I'm going to say it like this, very cleanly. There's a child in a room, and she's on a table, and she is being defiled and greatly harmed, traumatized. She is made to call out for Jesus. The men who are harming her are telling her, forcing her to call out for Jesus. Now, it's interesting to note that they're not having the child call out for any other spiritual entity, any other God, any other name that's ever existed. It's Jesus. Okay? They're forcing the child to call out for Jesus, and eventually, of course, the child will, because they're torturing the child and making him and her or her call out for Jesus. The child does it, and then someone, one of them, dressed up in a costume like Jesus, pretending to be Jesus, comes into the room, and instead of rescuing that traumatized child, continues the abuse, defiles the child, harms the child, does horrible things to the child, and betrays the child and abandons the child. Okay, leaves. Then that child is taken through a veil into another room. And in that room is another man dressed up like Satan. And what they describe is what sounds to me like a picnic that's set up in front of him, different foods and things. And he uses language like this to that freshly traumatized child. Oh, I'm so sorry that wimpy Jesus did that to you and betrayed you and abandoned you. I would never do that. Satan would never harm you in that way. Jesus is wimpy. He has no power here. We've thrown him out. He has no power. Satan, am all powerful. You can have anything you want here with me. I've got your back. So in seeing what they intend for small children to believe, what they need is to drive those souls, those child souls, away from Jesus Christ and to Satan. There are no other entities mentioned in these ceremonies, in this particular one. It should reveal to us a very clear intention of the enemy. That's what they mean. Now, if you comprehend that that is what they're doing to children, then you can realize it's on the spiritual level, in the spiritual realm, it's the same intent. It's the same ultimate objective for adults. How are they playing that out against all of us globally when they can't get us in a ritual to abuse us individually? What are they doing to drive us away from Jesus Christ and down into this fear state, this divided, bitter, angry, low vibration, a lot of people would call it, state that Satan controls, right? The techniques for adults are going to be more subtle. They're going to be more cunning, going to be more sophisticated, but with the same ultimate objective, folks. That's the war that we are fighting. That's the war that's being fought in the spiritual realm. And what we're witnessing are symptoms of that conflict. Do you follow me? Geopolitically, all of the antics, all of the deceit, the change in language, the forcing of harmful legislation. It's all symptoms. These people who are destroying everything are being spiritually compelled to do so. Many of them on the higher level winning because they're members of groups where they're getting this demonic guidance to do this. And I would say a lot of them are just pawns. They're unwitting, but they are carrying the flag for the dark side by repeating the lies and telling the good people we should go along with all of these destructive, distorted, and harmful things that we know in our hearts and just from practical experience are wrong and destructive. Why are they forcing us to accept these vile and vulgar ideas? Why are they pushing it on the children? Why are they attacking the children? Why is there a drag queen story hour with hairy, sweaty, despicable men and G-strings and vulgar acts being perpetrated upon elementary school children? And why are we told that that has to happen and that we have to be tolerant of it? Why are corrupt government officials cowering behind razor wire and cowering behind a lot of physical protection, calling mothers, concerned school mothers at school board meetings, domestic terrorists for asking hard questions as to why her children are being subjected to vulgar and vile perversions that if she showed on social media as an adult, she would be thrown off of that social media platform, even though that social media platform is on board with all the harm. So many things are being done, folks. What's in the foods, the toxins in the foods, and the dumbing down of the education. Our children are being made war upon. Where is it all coming from? We know better. It's coming from that clash, folks. It is spiritual. Its origin is spiritual. That's what you need to understand. That's what you need to organize over and resist against through legislation, primarily prayer. We need prayer groups. We need prayer groups to pray against this veil of secrecy, this cloaking of this harm, of this war against children. We're told, oh, there's nothing to be seen here. Just go along. It's tolerance. It's allowing this child to get a mutilating operation because that's what the child really wants and needs. It's acceptance. It's good. And then the child grows up a few years and goes, oh my God, this was a horrible mistake. Now I'm mutilated. I'm so confused and so deeply harmed. That's what's going on, folks. I'm going to put a wrap on it right there. I think that's enough. If you understand that, you understand what's going on globally, and you know how to organize and stand against it. Okay? Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that message, brother. It's the first time I got to see that. It is a very spiritual war that we are dealing with. I didn't understand it when I left this town to go to the southern border and help out That's for Child Rescue. My eyes opened up real quick. The dangers are happening here on home front. I know there's some veterans here that have signed up to protect this land, this country, foreign and domestic. And these people are domestic terrorists that are preying on our children. And we must stand up for that. So thank you, Craig.
My name is
My next speaker her name is Kim. She runs the media and marketing for Veterans for Child Rescue. She is a child trafficking survivor. She was born and raised in a religious cult, and she escaped when she was 20 years old. Her and I worked very fiercely together this last year. We did a lot of media campaigns, bringing on people to help alert the populace. So I'll let her speak here.
work with Veterans for Child Rescue, and part of my role is prevention, education, and raising awareness. Awareness is so important in this matter because although that's one of those feel-good terms that's too often used by most nonprofits, in the case of child trafficking and exploitation, awareness can literally reduce the predator's ability to operate. It makes it harder for bad guys to do bad things to children. As a child trafficking survivor, one of the things that could have helped me and the tens of thousands of other children like me was if someone could have had the awareness to ask the right questions, to check on the kid. Hey, are you okay? Where are you in school? Do you go to school? Where are your parents? Where are you living? These simple questions and others could have meant, at the very least, that we spent less time on the streets. So I want to summarize for you what child trafficking is, as well as some of the main things you need to know about it, and most importantly, how to help prevent your child from falling prey. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about child trafficking, so let's clear up a few important things. The definition of child trafficking is the sale and exploitation of children. Now, realize there are various forms of trafficking. All of them are abusive. All of them are harmful for children. However, sex trafficking is one very specific form of child exploitation that is incredibly prevalent here in the USA. Most people don't realize child sex trafficking is one of, if not the fastest growing criminal enterprises on this planet. It's also the second largest. It also generates an estimate of at least $50 billion every year just in the USA alone. So let's smash this misconception that this is a theory, but let's also define what it really is and what people need to know about it. Now, the various forms of trafficking can look like child labor, child sex trafficking, domestic servitude, and many others, and realize that more often than not, these various forms may be mixed into one situation. May not look like what you think. So if your idea of child trafficking is what you've seen in Hollywood of chains and cages, while that can happen, it's not what you are most likely to face in your community. Statistically, and just realize that statistics are only based on what's reported. So that's barely scratching the tip of the iceberg, but the statistics are alarming. And statistically, this is happening to children you know right now in your communities, in your schools, in your churches, in the sports leagues, to children that you know but may have overlooked because you may not be aware of what to look for. One thing that's important to realize is that child trafficking is not a one-size-fits-all problem. Therefore, there's not really a one-size-fits-all solution. But we've tried to make this as easy as possible for the general public to understand, assimilate, and then take action with. So on our website, vetsforchildrescue.org, we have a bunch of free information, including defining what is child trafficking, signs of child trafficking, how to identify predators, how to report the evidence. And we encourage you to study these free resources, not only to empower yourself with this knowledge, but also to be able to share these resources within your community. Now, one of the main tactics that I personally think is so important for people to be aware of is a tactic called grooming. There's also a lot of misconception about what this involves, so let's break it down. Grooming is a manipulation tactic that predators use to gradually desensitize the child to harmful and inappropriate behavior. Now, this strategy defines a lot of what's happening in our society today, but more specifically, I want you to realize the key aspects of the process of grooming. There are actually 6 stages of sexual grooming that was identified by a forensic psychiatrist. And I'm going to break these down and unpack them further because it's so important for people to know the strategy so that they can know how to outsmart the predators. The 6 stages of sexual grooming. 1, targeting the victim. Realize that predators are strategic and they will target vulnerabilities. Children are very vulnerable, but specifically children coming from vulnerable families. They may be easier to access than a child from a strong, safe family. Number 2, gaining trust. Predators are strategic and they will often position themselves in places of trust or authority in order to gain the child's trust and the trust of their friends and family. Number 3, filling a need. Back to point 1, they will target vulnerabilities. So filling a need could look like something financial. It could look like that person who's way too excited about babysitting for free. It can look like gifts and treats and special attention and many other things. Number 4 is isolating the child. Number 5 is sexualizing the relationship. Number 6 is maintaining control. I want you to realize that number 6 means they have already gained control, and the final step is to maintain it. Now, this can be done through further coercion. It can also be done through violence and threats. So these 6 stages outline a very important strategy for people to be aware of, because these manipulation tactics are how predators can gain access without being identified, without raising concern, without the child realizing that they're being abused. Unfortunately, the way this works is that children don't often realize they're being abused, and they definitely don't realize they're being trafficked. A child's brain is not fully developed until around 25. And because of tactics like grooming and others, predators can strategically convince the child that this is either all in fun and some kind of secretive game, or that the predator is actually the protector. And they gain the child's trust so as to let them believe that everyone else is unsafe and dangerous, and the predator is the only one that's safety, love, and protection. So another big action step. It sounds so easy, but it is so important to empower your children. And this starts at home. If you are not building up your child, if you're not reinforcing positive self-esteem and belief, you're so smart, you've got this, we can figure this out, you've got this, you're beautiful, you're amazing. If they've never heard this from you, when, not if, when predators approach them on the internet or slide into their DMs, if that's the first time your child has ever heard, you're so beautiful, they may finally feel like someone's seen them and heard them. But if you've done your part to educate your child at home with the tactics predators use, obviously in an age-appropriate way, explain the risks to your kids, and also let them know what steps to take when, not if, this happens to them, specifically on the internet as well as in person. What are the stranger danger tactics that a predator might use, and what should the child do? A child should ultimately know that you are their safe advocate, that they can and should come to you for anything that they're curious about, frustrated by, scared of, funny, happy, sad things that happen throughout the day or in their life. They should know that you're that safe adult, that they can come to you for anything, and that you will listen, full stop. That you will listen, that you will take them seriously, and if necessary, you will take the appropriate action. Your children should know that they will not be the ones getting in trouble if they report something to you. Even if you don't like hearing about it, they need to know that you're their safe place. I promise you, if you're unwilling to have these conversations with your children, someone else is. I would rather they get this information from you in a balanced educational way, in a protective way, in an empowering way, as opposed to having to figure it out for themselves in the world. The world is a terrible place these days for children. What we are trying to do is make our country safe for children, but we can't do that without your support. And so much of this starts at home. Most, if not all, of the survivors that I've spoken with, while all our stories are completely different and everyone has a unique situation, there are similar patterns. One of which is that typically there was abuse in the family, in the household from an early age. Not only does this break the children down and demoralize them, it lessens their own self-worth. And when predators come into their life later on, they will be more susceptible, they will be more vulnerable, and predators know this. Here's your job. Be a strong parent, be the example of strength to your children, and raise strong children. Make sure they're not easy targets. Make sure you empower them with the skills and knowledge that you need. We've gone through great lengths to make this information free and available for you on our website, so I implore you to study our website, to read these resources and share them. Not only could you save a life, you could help prevent countless children from having to later heal from the trauma they experience simply because predators have unlimited access to them via the internet and via unsafe aspects of our society. You and I can make a difference. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of the solution.
Thank you, Kim. It's been a crazy year working with you this last year, and everything that you've helped me personally, from your experiences of having to deal with the trauma that you have dealt with. And I really appreciate, some of the tools that she gives out in our live streams. She does a TikTok live at 7 p.m. on Thursday nights. She gives out awareness and brings on guests sometimes. So if you guys want to learn more about what she does personally, please visit vetsforchildrescue.org. And you can also check us out on all the social medias. My next guest is going to be, Forrest Seeley. He's the executive director for Veterans for Child Rescue. He doesn't do too many, of these, so I really appreciate him being able to get it out to me. Some of the needs that this organization's need are actual financial backing. An operation for Veterans for Child Rescue can cost anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000, if not a little bit more, just to be able to move bodies and be able to train law enforcement and all those aspects. We don't ask for anything more than that. All we care about is moving personnel, saving kids, and arresting predators, and getting some wins on the board for law enforcement. So with that, I also do want to mention Forrest. To me, he's been very dear to me in my healing, recovered spiritually. His mother she's a very inspirational woman. She's probably one of the most spiritual beings I've ever met. And I just am very grateful for this individual for opening up his home to me as well.
Hello, my name is Forrest Seeley. I am the Executive Director for Veterans for Child Rescue. Today I'd like to talk about what we do. We run counter-trafficking operations and spread the word about anti-trafficking of our children in the United States. You can watch what we do for free at www.contralandmovie.com. This is a documentary that we released in 2020 for free. It's a Hollywood level documentary. It's a gut punch. For some, it's hard to watch, but this is a topic that we need to be talking about. You cannot turn away, hide your eyes, change the topic anymore. There is an attack on our children. It is estimated $150 billion worldwide, and it is estimated $38 to $50 billion in the United States. The United States is the largest consumer of child sex trafficking and labor trafficking. It is an ugly subject, and we must deal with it. So what you can do to get involved is you can go to our website, www.vets, Go there, and if you click at the very top banner, you can check out our radio show that I co-host with Craig Sawyer, our founder, called Defending Our Children. And you can listen to past episodes or learn where to listen to them live. Additionally, on our website, check out the tab Tools in Education. There are a lot of things you can do. For example, you can find out and understand better what is child trafficking, okay, and what is grooming. These are important topics that I think we all need to be educated on. What are the signs of trafficking? Internet safety tips and red flag apps. These are just a few of the things that you can find on our Tools in Education. What's even more important is you can get involved. You can become a volunteer. Now, I want people to understand, we get a lot of requests for volunteer, especially in the military community, to become operators on our Viper team. This only represents a very small portion of what it takes to run the organization. A lot of what we do is radio, television, media. Now, along with becoming a volunteer, if you have any relationship with law enforcement and or the district attorney in your area, reach out to them, speak to them, invite us to come into your town, and we can run some counter-trafficking operations. We can help train law enforcement if they need it. We can help them get some wins on the board. Okay. The other thing that you can do is you can write and visit your state and local officials. What's really interesting is that we've sat back as a society and we've allowed our policymakers to shape the world, and we've sat back, and anything that we have been dissatisfied with, we have allowed them to do it. I would recommend that if you go visit them face to face and ask questions, don't just go in there with some bullet points that you want to shove down their throat. Go find out what they're doing as it pertains to protecting our kids. Another place to start is your school board. This seems to be where the kids are heavily under attack. Go to your school board meetings, meet with the individual members of your school board. Again, ask questions. It's important that you find out and understand what their policies are. Oftentimes, they will provide policies that are very ambiguous. So if you ask the right questions, you can get the correct answers. And finally, donate. We're a small organization. We take your money and we apply it to our mission. Our mission is getting the words out, educating, working with law enforcement, social media, radio and TV. That's where we're spending our dollars. So I highly recommend that you donate. Thank you again for entertaining Veterans for Child Rescue, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, brother. That'll kind of conclude the Veterans for Child Rescue. I appreciate Forrest so much for giving that information, because, you know, we get people all the time that come to us and be like, hey, I want to help. I want to help. You know, some of the things you guys can do, we have 10 action steps that are on our website, which is bestforchildrescue.org. Please visit that. You know, get involved, get yourself educated, and figuring out how you can better help your community. Well, actually, before I close up the Veterans for Child Rescue, I'll give you a little piece of Contraland. Back here. Give you a little piece of Contraland. It's a documentary that Craig filmed a few years ago while working with law enforcement. This one, this one is actually with Dr. Judith Reisman. If you guys don't know her, please look her up. She's been a champion for the children before she passed away a couple of years ago. She's a board member for Veterans for Child Rescue, and she's going to kind of explain how trafficking in the United States really came about and the history of it. And this is also in contralandmovie.com.
There are multiple things that cause this culture of child rape. One of the things is pornography. Another is Alfred Kinsey. Back in the 1950s, he was a self-described sadomasochistic pedophile whose own genitals were mutilated due to what he preferred sexually. So his mind was sick.
Child sex trafficking in the United States really begins back earlier than most people understand. In 1970s, we already had a major campaign in the United States on the issue of child sexual abuse and trafficking, but we didn't call it trafficking at that time.
Dr. Judith Reisman is the founder of the Reisman Institute, which is dedicated to exposing and debunking Alfred Kinsey's fraudulent so-called science regarding child sexuality. She is internationally recognized as an expert witness on human sexuality.
I would have to say the Kinsey reports laid the scientific foundation for abusing kids. In 1948, the groundwork was laid. There was Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, which was Alfred Kinsey wrote Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, supported across the board by Planned Parenthood, all came together with that. So sexual behavior in the human male. Then in 1953, sexual behavior in the human female. There was no field of human sexuality education before Kinsey, none. We had the common law that was based our laws on. It was biblical, okay. When Kinsey came on board, half the states in the union gave the death penalty, could give the death penalty for rape. The other half, life in prison. Now we have all these feminists, properly complaining that rape is treated, in a casual way. Well, this all comes from something. It all emerges out of something. And that something, that kind of dehumanization that is picked up by the media from the academic world, pushed through the schools, through first just the universities, then the junior high schools, the high schools, then now the kindergarten, all that then lays the groundwork for where we are.
It seems like a percentage of Americans perceive Kinsey as someone who opened up the discussion for sexuality and that was a good thing. But what I think a lot of them fail to see is that he was a sadomasochistic pedophile, and what he did was horrific. And so his studies were falsified. And since they were, it seems to me like his studies and the doctrine that have followed need to be gone back, reversed, denounced, disavowed, and replaced by more wholesome and healthy real science, whatever that actually is, but not to take the falsified studies of a sick mind and accept that as science.
You're talking about a man who, he didn't just use images of children, he used real children. He used real children, and he had charts and graphs of orgasms that a child was supposed to have an orgasm, a 5-year-old, a 4-month-old. One was a 4-year-old that had allegedly had 26 orgasms in 24 hours. Now that's around the clock experiment, right? So this was research that was established and was believed by the American public, by the whole world, really. And the whole thesis behind his research was that children are sexual from birth. Children are sexual from birth, which then gets funneled into the mindset of the public, and it becomes the foundation of human sexuality education. Hugh Hefner, at age 22, he was a virgin in college. He read Kinsey, and that radicalized him. He said, oh, Kinsey's the scientist. I will be Kinsey's pamphleteer. So what comes out of Playboy is the stream of pornography, which is at the base of your trafficking world. Absolutely. The stream of pornography. 15 years later, we got Penthouse. 10 years after that, we got Hustler. And then it hasn't stopped, right? But the impetus for that came from the academic world, came from Dr. Alfred Kinsey's fraudulent data.
And look at all the harm it's caused.
Enormous harm. Alfred Kinsey should have been arrested. So should all his teammates have been arrested. The Kinsey Institute's still alive and still educating the public. And now we are seeing the explosion, and the end result is the massive abuse of children, as well as directly related, the trafficking of children, because you can't separate the grooming of children from the trafficking of children.
That was Dr. Judith Reisman. I did not have the pleasure of meeting her. I joined the team about the same time she passed. She was very inspirational to a lot of people, especially towards saving our children. So, what I got here? Okay. All right. So now that kind of concludes with Veterans for Child Rescue. If anyone's got any questions, I'll be able to take it before we move on. I'm going to discuss a little bit about Mom and Dad Army. We're just a bunch of parents and guardians that are standing up for the little ones' rights. We have efforts in legislation, litigation, and all about. We have influencers that are getting loud and demanding this cultural change. So if you want to learn more, please definitely go look up Mom Army on Instagram. It is themom.army, and they're going to be moving over to Twitter as well. So they'll be sharing their message that way. I joined Mom and Dad Army, or the Dad Army side, back in end of December, early January. And ever since then, I've been pretty active with them for the last few months. I've been down in Arizona for the last 6-7 months and fighting along with Kaylee Kozak, Seek Smith, and Kaylee has been fighting for Kaylee's Law. I'm not going to talk on it because I don't want to mess up her wording, but it is a very powerful law that needs to be across the U.S. And we fought inside the state and House Senate there inside Arizona, even against their governor that thinks she's pretty notorious for being a veto queen. So we'll just call that. Go ahead and do that then.
Hey, Tyler.
Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, can you fill us in, like in this part of Kansas, are you seeing trafficking and where?
We're seeing a few more cases here and there. Problem right now, I'm flat out on. We've got to get a little positive. I've been putting my foot forward, but funding and stuff like that. That's still one of my major focuses.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Trafficking definitely comes up here up here in Kansas. It's a major highway, 70 and 81, being that, and us being in Cloud County. I'm sure Sheriff Davis has seen quite a bit of stuff, and we need to get back and support our local communities and definitely help out our local law enforcement so that way they can be better off and be able to combat this.
So Tyler, are you saying like at truck stops and gas stations?
Truck stops. Like these are major highways that come up and down through Kansas, coming from the border. Some of the big hot spots are down in Texas, like Houston, Dallas. Those are the two biggest cities for trafficking. And they're just coming right up the interstates from the border and other things. So, I'll get you guys got any more questions? I don't mean to rush or anything. Just trying to get it all in. All right.
I think parents should take back control, and they should be the main mouthpieces for children. right? We are the ones that represent their voice until they become adults. So I'm all for grassroots organizations just like Mom and Dad Army. So if you're looking for an organization near you that's going to fight for your kids, this is the one to be a part of.
Video is pretty old. It's about a year old now. I know you said 25 cities. We have grown exponentially a lot more, especially out in California, where they are having the hardest fight out there. We are starting to flip a lot of school boards members and starting to get better things into those schools out there. So these individuals and influencers are just amazing people. So the next guest I'm going to bring on is Seek Smith. She is the founder of Mom and Dad Army and also Badass Do-Gooders, which is her media company. The Mom and Dad Army, to me, I haven't seen, this many fearsome warriors since this last year I've joined. And I just thank every one of them for being in the trenches with them and helping them out in any way I can.
Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. My name is Seek Smith. I am the founder of Mom and Dad Army. I'm so excited to be sending this message out. Thank you so much for showing up and coming together for this very important fight to protect our children. I just want to give, a lot of kudos to Tyler for putting this event together. We are so grateful to be fighting alongside him and, growing our coalition to do more good for our children and for the future of our children. And if anybody wants to get involved with our organization, please feel free to reach out to us on our website, mom-army.com. And then we're on Instagram at the.momarmy and at the.dadarmy. I hope to hear from you. And yeah, let's do this. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, C. You're awesome, girl. She opened up her home to me as well when I was down there in Arizona. I was with her just about every day, running around the Capitol and all that stuff down there in Phoenix. So I'm just so grateful for her in my life. Before I get to this next one, this is Heidi Chance. She is a 25-year detective fighting child sex crimes down there in Phoenix. I met her right before I came back here. We did a movie premiere at Sound of Freedom, where we invited Congressman Biggs and Congressman Crane, amongst other special guests. I was really thrilled to see them come as politicians that are actually wanting to learn more and get more involved. So their efforts are tremendous. So when I met Heidi, she, I just knew so much goodness was going to come out of her. Then learning more about her over the last few weeks, she's an inspiration and a warrior out there. So law enforcement, if you want to get educated as well on some sting operations and all that, Heidi does a really good job doing that. So that's another good resource for you.
All right. Thank you so much for learning about this particular sex trafficking briefing about domestic trafficking happening here locally in the United States, as far as I understand it. My name is Heidi Chance. I am a retired detective from Phoenix Police Department. I retired in October of 2021 after 25 years with the department. 13 years of my career I spent as an undercover sex trafficking detective investigating domestic sex trafficking happening in Phoenix, which is the 5th largest city in the United States. So my perspective comes from domestic trafficking, which is limited to traffickers that are traveling, coming from city to city, state to state, and then exploiting victims and traveling with them throughout the United States.
I'm also a presenter for the National Criminal Justice Training Center through the Amber Alert Grant Program, sponsored by Fox Valley Technical College, and I have spoken for them and presented for them for, I think we're going on 8 years, a little over 8 years, since 2014-ish. I also, since retiring, became a founder of my own organization called A Chance for Awareness, where I give awareness about sex trafficking locally to the community, as well as specific law enforcement training for undercover detectives all over the United States, both virtually and in person. I am featured in the documentary that came out in May of 2019 called Sex Trafficking in America, which is an actual documentary about sex trafficking happening here domestically in the United States. It is a great depiction of, if you haven't seen it, great depiction of domestic trafficking, good examples of how victims are exploited, specifically juveniles, and then some of the proactive undercover operations that law enforcement is doing to respond to this issue. My information is here, and I'll also have it at the end. I am going to move quickly because I was given 10 minutes to present this information, and I want to make sure I get everything in. So we have a lot of stats that are out there about trafficking. The ones that are pretty important right now to know is that since COVID, there's been a 93% increase in domestic child sex trafficking happening because we have children online unattended being sought after by predators, sex buyers, and traffickers through the means of social media and online apps. 40% of victims reported familial trafficking, meaning they know their trafficker. This isn't a stranger. It's not the guy in the white van coming through the neighborhood and abducting people. These are victims being exploited by someone they know. It could be a direct family member, aunt, uncle, cousin, stepbrother, mom's boyfriend, or their boyfriend, someone they know. And then one other stat, less than 1% of victims are actually identified in the United States. That's because we don't have a true number of how many victims are out there because we don't know who hasn't reported yet. And so if you were to Google all of this information, you're going to find a wide gap in numbers. Nothing's accurate because we can't really put a number to this because we don't know how many people are out there because they haven't come forward yet. This is a $150 billion plus dollar industry. Criminal organizations are seeing this as a means to profit further, and they are moving towards using trafficking in their criminal activity. Human trafficking, just real quick so we can go over what it is. It is a crime against a person. Human smuggling is a crime against the border. Crime against a person, and in that crime, the elements of force, fraud, or coercion have to occur. However, minors are automatically a victim. This is some examples of force, fraud, or coercion. Specifically, the fraud and the coercion part are things that aren't as self-explanatory as force or violence. And that's when we have instances where we have traffickers giving victims false promises, offering them, some type of, future reward if they do this activity and all of those things, and coercing them into being a part of this situation. These cases are really hard to prove. We're not going to have a witness that sees a victim have sex with somebody, be paid by a sex buyer, and then take that money over to their trafficker. So we have to, put these cases together after the fact a lot of times, and we have to get corroborative evidence, DNA, video surveillance, other witnesses' testimony, phones, computers, video surveillance from like grocery stores or where they purchase sexual paraphernalia, condoms, lube, all of those things. We also have a situation here where victims don't see themselves as victims, so they're not coming forward and saying, hey, Detective Chance, come talk to me. And in fact, they don't even realize that they are being exploited. They are definitely, in some instances, walking in a known area for prostitution down the street with a phone in their hand, and this is what is hard for a jury to wrap around their head, is that this person is freely walking down the road and you all are calling them a victim when they could call the police at any time. And in fact, they're actually trapped, they're not free to leave, and there's a lot of dynamics that are involved in this lifestyle that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. This is truly an issue of supply and demand. The supply is being supplied by the traffickers who's bringing forth exploited victims, and then the demand is the sex buyers. Sex buyers are anyone. They could be cops, doctors, businessmen, construction workers, U.S. citizens, non-U.S. citizens, men, typically men. I have never had a female buyer, but never say never. But that's definitely typically who we see. 14% of men are buying sex in the United States. And this is a stat from the Arizona State University Sex Trafficking Intervention Research Program. Venues for buying sex on the streets, that's called the track of the blade. Online through the means of escort ads, and I'll talk about those in a second. Massage parlors, we've got a lot of the sugar baby, sugar daddies, OnlyFans. There's also all of these other apps where sex buying occurs. Traffickers are what, like I said, causes this problem to exist through the means of providing the supply. We'll talk about this guy in a second. Traffickers often have a criminal history record, complete lack of empathy. They do not feel any remorse for the victims that they exploit. They're experts in manipulation, experts in detecting vulnerability. This is their job, their only job all day long is to manage the victims they have and go find new ones so that they can make more money. And sometimes they have a family history of trafficking. That's one dynamic that I don't think is out there enough, is that I have arrested many, many traffickers' mothers, and it's definitely seems to be the whole family is benefiting off of this activity, and it's a learned behavior. Their dad was a trafficker, their uncle was a trafficker, their older stepbrother was a trafficker. That seems to be a thing. We identify them through victim interviews if they come forward and want to press charges. Social media, through our undercover social media operations. I have 6 Facebooks, 3 Instagrams, Tagged, Meet Me, Bumble, Plenty of Fish, Snapchat, all in undercover personas. If you watch that documentary, Sex Trafficking in America, you will see me on the phone and hear the conversation I have. And that trafficker found me off of one of my social media profiles, and we arrested him for pandering, a classified felony, for trying to recruit and groom me as an undercover. Surveillance, sting operations, all kinds of means. One thing I want you to understand about traffickers is they use fear to control their victims. Fear of gonna get beat up, or they actually do get violently assaulted. Fear of things happening to their family members. All of this psychological warfare and fear is very real to these victims, because traffickers are the most reliable people you will ever meet. If they say they're going to beat you up, they're going to beat you up, because that's all they have, is you thinking whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Traffickers also brand their victims. They literally will put a tattoo on their victims. So if you have multiple victims with the same or similar moniker, name, or symbol, that's a huge red flag for a trafficking situation. And they are branded. If you see these tattoos, they literally say property of another person. Modern day slavery, it's not just a slogan. This is where that comes from. Characteristics, a lot of them are gang members or affiliated with gangs, aspiring rap artists. We have a lot of those. They are not so territorial anymore. They're now actually working together in coordination together to avoid law enforcement. And incarceration doesn't stop this lifestyle. That's the main thing I want to close with here, is that incarceration continues this lifestyle. I'm going to have to fast forward through so that we can get to the end so you can actually see this example real quick. And I'm going to go over 10 minutes by a little bit. This investigation, you can Google State of Arizona versus Robert Hood. This individual trafficked multiple females, all adults, and one 16-year-old. This was the last case that I had after I retired in October. But he got sentenced to 108 years in prison. We're definitely doing good to attack this problem. We're getting larger sentences, but it really takes, a whole collective group of individuals. We had victim advocates, we had child welfare, we had the hospitals on board with some of the victims that got injured by him. Jail intelligence is huge as far as providing information, because he did not stop his trafficking game. Even though he was in jail pending trial, he was still trafficking individuals, and we ended up adding charges to him. Anyway, with that, I hope you got a good picture of what's going on with trafficking domestically here in the United States. If you have any questions at all, this is my information, and thank you again so much for your time.
Thank Heidi. She was rushing to give me this video. She could have put in so much more time into this if I would have allowed her more time. I believe next time when I bring her on, try to give her a bigger portion because she does bring a lot of very valuable information out there. So, yes, thank you. All right, this is my friend Phil. Met him also down in Arizona. He's a part of Dad Army with me. And Heidi was a part of Mom Army with us as well. I don't think I mentioned that, but Phil over here, he's a part of Dad Army. Him and his wife, they bring a lot of awareness on how to raise families in a more appropriate manner. I'll let him say a little bit.
What's going on, man? It is your boy Phil, aka Driscoll. I've had the pleasure of serving with you on Dad Army for some time now. I am super proud and fascinated by the amazing event that you put on today through Tribe for Children. I know that it is going to be epic, as is all of the work that you do to help spread awareness of what's going on out here and advocate for the safety of children. It's a very important job. Myself and my wife run an Instagram channel called @FamilyValuesTV, named after our YouTube channel, where we came together just to spread a message of the importance of restoring traditional family values to modern homes in America. Unfortunately, many have lost sight of those values, and as a result, our marriage rates are plummeting and divorce rates are climbing. God laid it on our heart to take on this fight in this manner, as we believe that this is the foundational key to a healthy society. As we all know, that a child raised in a two-parent home is much more likely to not only be successful, but they are also more likely to be kept safe from predators. And I honestly think that it is a conspiracy to demoralize our values in this country for that very reason, because it is ultimately a necessary evil to make our children that much more vulnerable. So again, thank you for all the work you're putting in. We'll keep fighting the fight on our end. You can follow us at Family Values TV, where we discuss all things marriage and family. And you can follow me as well at Driscoll757, where I not only highlight a wealth of topics, but I also make music with a message that is relevant to the work that is near and dear to our hearts. If there are any wives out there or prospective wives that maybe need a little guidance or feel like that they were not properly prepared for marriage, or even worse, they've been fed so many horrible narratives that they've almost become riddled with fear and expecting failure in their marriage, my wife is starting a 4-week course on August 24th that is available for signups right now. She has been in those women's shoes and went through an amazing transformation from a modern woman with a very counterproductive way of thinking to a biblical traditional wife. And it is her heart's pleasure now to share that wisdom that she's developed through those trials and tribulations. If that's you, or you know anyone who can benefit from it in any way, shape, or form, you can find the registration at streethopentertainment.com/family-values TV. Again, it is your boy Driscoll. I thank you all for everything that you're doing out there. Even to just show up means the world to me and my family and everyone out here who is doing everything that they can to fight this war against our children. I am a father of 8, so I want to personally say thank you for fighting this necessary evil to create a better society for not only our kids, but for future generations to come. God bless you all.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I know you're in there, so I appreciate you doing that. My next guest is Simon Essler. He has helped me out with some of the Children's Bill of Rights, along with like Jack Farmer, if you know Jack Ryan from Tom Clancy novels. That's Jack Farmer. He helped contribute and as well with this. So Simon has been studying the psychology of kind of the issues that we're dealing with inside schools right now with the transgender community and the mutilation portion of it. I'll let the experts speak a little bit more on this than myself. So here we go.
Dad Army captain, filmmaker, content creator, life cycle celebrant, and unschooling dad. And as someone who has studied modern warfare for almost a decade, I have become acutely aware of genuine operations seeking to attack our children. While some of this is more overt, involving the kidnapping and enslavement of children, we are also faced by much more subtle and sophisticated criminal operations. Not only are our children now being trafficked online via social media platforms like Instagram, caught openly facilitating pedophilia, but we are faced by psychological influencing that seeks to ideologically subvert our children from a young age. Some of this ideological subversion is, of course, coming from the left side of the political spectrum. There are genuine neo-Marxist influences infiltrating many areas of our society, and arguably these influences infiltrated much of the left-wing population itself. At the same time, if we become entrenched in the notion that this is a political war, we risk blinding ourselves to influences that are operating outside of the political spectrum. For example, when I looked into the impact of gender ideology on our youth, I found that many were falsely attributing this phenomenon merely to political influencing. I saw media on the left and the right using the issue to recruit people further and further into divisive political stances, creating social conditions that actually make it harder to protect children. When I was making my documentary film Cut, I knew this couldn't be about something as unsophisticated as left-wing versus right-wing politics, but what I found still shocked me. While there was, in fact, a 4,000% rise in teenage girls in the UK seeking gender affirmative care over an 8 to 10 year period, and a quadrupling of the same group in the US seeking gender surgeries over a 1 year period, something else has been rising in the background. There has also been an exponential rise in girls seeking cosmetic genital surgeries, or what is known as labiaplasty. This procedure has proven to be medically unsound and has in fact ruined the lives of many women and girls, causing permanent damage to their genitalia, some losing the ability to orgasm. So why is this relevant? Because this trend has occurred alongside the trans craze and has nothing to do with gender ideology. It is occurring because of medical corruption, miseducated parents, and social norms that we as a society have not taken seriously enough. The issue of young girls cutting, modifying, and injecting their bodies based on fixed trends they have been handed during the most vulnerable years of their lives is not a political issue. It's much deeper and broader. And to protect girls and children in general from the elements of our society that have become so dangerous, we need foundational solutions. So, in addition to releasing my film Cut in an attempt to raise awareness of the scope of what we're up against, I am also releasing a book called Legacy Keepers, Protecting Your Child's Heroic Journey. This book addresses one of the foundational problems with child rearing today, the lack of meaningful, intentional rites of passage that are designed to address the unique nature of each child. If we look closely at what a young girl goes through when she enters the stages of gender affirmative care, there is a pattern that I believe most people are missing. She has entered an unstable time in her life. Her body is rapidly changing. Its capacity to bear children is arising, and she is up against the pressure of suddenly being seen as a sexual being. This is occurring under the influence of people like Miley Cyrus and Beyonce, who are uplifted in the media as feminist icons, telling young girls that the way to be a powerful woman is to become hypersexualized. Facing these challenges and the unknowns of womanhood that now seem terrifying, the teen girl seeks guidance. She finds solace in teachers, counselors, and social media, who all tell her that her rejection of womanhood is not because of toxic notions of feminism, but because she is a boy inside. They take her inner turmoil and reframe it for her, giving her a new way of seeing herself and the world. She is shown that gender norms are a kind of violence, oppressing people like her, and that there is an uprising of gender nonconformity happening around the world, and that she too can be part of this revolution. She is now given new pronouns, a new name, and through social transitioning, surgeries, and hormones, she is given a new body. And when she emerges in her new form, she is celebrated by her teachers, the counselors, and the horde of girls like her on social media. She is stunning and brave. She is welcomed in her new status, welcomed into the ongoing culture war, and told she is a revolutionary, a freedom fighter. Now, as a certified life cycle celebrant, someone who has studied the history of ceremony and ritual and the art of creating custom rites of passage, I saw this pattern for what it is. All the phases this girl is going through are precisely the phases of a rite of passage. This is notable, most importantly, because human beings have used and have needed rites of passage to move through difficult, meaningful phases in life throughout the majority of human history. We are deeply psychologically primed to respond to rites of passage because they meet a very deep need in the human condition. And one of the main reasons this psychological influencing has been so effective is because we are failing to meet this very real need. So, if you want to understand more and join my mission, check out daughtersofthewestfilm.com to see my film cut, join my newsletter, and head to simonessler.com for more information on my new book, Legacy Keepers.
Thank you, Simon. I appreciate that, man. You know, this whole stuff is really new to me. You know, I don't, fully understand it. So, which is why I kind of partnered with them, because I started hearing some of these stories. I got friends like Chief Beck. He also went by Kristen Beck. He was the Navy SEAL that went on CNN and did the transition and recently just detransitioned. And he told me quite a bit about how it's affected him spiritually and got all that aspect. So, I don't agree with this mutilation stuff personally. So in my opinion, I think we just need to really do better.
My name is Udos Wallace, and
my next speaker is Udos Wallace. I'll let her tell her story, but she's a dear friend of mine, as well as in the Mom Army side. She's a celebrity that got taken advantage of. And now what she's doing is she's being a fierce warrior. And she has worked with a few groups out there in Congress and is producing the Protect, I forgot the name. Right there, tip of tongue. Protect Children, or Protect Act, that's what it is. And so I just really appreciate her coming on, and here's a little bit about her journey.
Victims of the iCloud hack leak in 2014, which was essentially digital rape and trafficking of non-consensual images and videos. And this absolutely crushed and destroyed me on a soul level, but this isn't something that's only happening to women and men, but it's happening to our children. So I was in a trusted relationship with my now ex-boyfriend, and when we broke up, he threatened to, when we were together, he took a couple pictures of us and a video, and when we broke up, he threatened to leak these pictures and the video to the internet. But although he did not leak it, I later on got hacked by a predator who was stalking me and 99 other hardworking celebrity women. And he collected personal information, pictures, and videos of us over a 2-year span. So he was stalking us for 2 years and kept collecting this kind of information. After strategically planning and collecting enough images, addresses, and videos, this predator went public with a list of 100 women that he was auctioning off to the public for all of the predators to bet on, like livestock. And I was unfortunately on that list. When I first found out about it, I didn't think much of it because I have always been so careful. I always covered up my special part. If I ever sent a picture or something like that, it would have been something like similar to a bikini modeling photo shoot or something of that kind. After getting enough bids and collecting enough funds, this predator ended up leaking everything to the internet. And there was also some underage girls on my list as well. When the leak happened, my phone was blowing up. And that's when I realized that, oh my God, it's the same pictures in the video that my ex-boyfriend sent to me years prior. And my heart just dropped and my body just collapsed with it. I locked myself in and I couldn't stop crying. I was publicly humiliated and degraded, and it was such a public event that everybody found out about it. And a few people were concerned, but honestly, most of them were bullying me and using this as a tool to kick me while I was down. A few people suggested that I should kill myself, that my career and my life is over, and that I'm damaged goods now, and that no man would ever want me. Most of these cruel comments were coming from my peers, other actors and influencers. And then the brands started canceling my contracts and the sponsorships because my so-called new image didn't align with their brand and they didn't want to associate with me. Then of course that dreadful moment that I was trying so hard to escape, my mom calls me asking if I did porn now. And this is the moment that I just wanted to die because I worked so hard in trying to make my mom proud, and it was just all stolen from me. And then the icing on the cake, the hacker also leaked my address, so I had to move, and I ended up isolating myself at my new location for years after that. Having relationships after this whole incident have been very difficult. I have to constantly explain myself over and over, and then if they finally get it, then I have to explain myself to their family members or friends, and then it just goes on and on. My basic human rights were stolen from me, but what they were really trying to steal was my spirit. Now imagine this happening to your child. Imagine you coming home and finding out that your child have committed suicide because of something like this. This kind of trauma is forever immortalized, and it's not something that just goes away, and it needs to be stopped. As soon as the leak happened, I did everything in my power to get this stuff taken down. I reached out to a law firm that did DMCA takedown requests, and they wanted a $20,000 retainer and a minimum of $10,000 a month. And I just felt so defeated because I didn't make that kind of money. And I asked this company that monetized my YouTube if they could take the links down and in exchange of my earnings, right? And now I calculated how much it was, and it ended up being over $1 million. And let's not forget about the millions of dollars that all of the companies profited off of me. Eventually, I had to learn how to do DMCA takedown requests myself, and I would spend hours and hours on getting links together to submit and contacting porn sites, begging them to take this stuff down on me. If they would even take it down at all, I would just see it be re-uploaded the next day. Even if you do 1 million DMCA takedown requests, Google leaves the source site up, and that's something that never gets erased. So anyone can easily just download and share it whenever they want. And I did my research and found out that by law, Google can't take these source sites down because they say that they're located in another country, which makes no sense because it lives on Google. And also anyone can easily just create a VPN, which is a virtual private network, and claim that they're simply in another country, but be your next door neighbor, right? So after 7 years of doing DMCA takedown requests, I got connected to a head of marketing of a porn company. And they notified me that they're going to implement something called the fingerprint stamp system to my video. And the fingerprint stamp system is a system that scans the video ahead of time and won't allow you to upload it. So it never gets uploaded after that, right? Later on, I realized that all of these platforms have this technology, but they simply don't want to implement it. If someone wants to repost even a little video snippet of a major movie, that whole movie have been fingerprint stamped from the beginning to end, and it won't let you even upload it in the first place. So you mean to tell me that there's better laws in place for the copyright of movies and music than it is for women, men, and children that are being digitally raped and trafficked? I mean, why? The answer is simple. Trafficking of non-consensual images and videos of real people is a billion-dollar industry. Everyone profits from it except for the victims, and it needs to be stopped. I'm going to quickly just go over how the MCA works with algorithms. So to request the MCA, it usually takes anywhere from 48 hours to a week. And that's for a porn site. And then up to 8 weeks for Google. The first 48 hours to a week is when you profit the most from a video on a porn site. And all of the other sites, of course. But then also, it goes after that to 4 to 8 weeks. So now how convenient is it that they're taking the links down after they already made the profit? What happened to me could happen to anyone, and it doesn't matter how successful, educated, protected, or famous you are. It could happen to you, and it could happen to your child. So please act now before it's too late. Thank you.
I brought Oodle's message up because she has the PROTECT Act that it really does help, fight all the videos that are online for children. And, that's what a lot of these traffickers do, even with the physical trafficking. They will take images and recordings and they will upload it up to one of those adult sites. And they will harbor money from that. And that's just another income to keep those traffickers going. So I just wanted to bring that up because the PROTECT Act is very important in this mission to be able to combat the dangers that we have out there, the evil stuff. So.
And Richard's a dad from.
Hi.
I'm back.
My next person, my next guest is also a Dad Army guy. He's a great ally and a friend of mine. He's a veteran. He's fierce out there. He's out in California. And the stuff that's going out in California is moving out here towards the east. That stuff ain't going to stop. So here's a little piece of kind of what he's dealing with. And he's a little motivating, I guess.
Dad from San Diego. A year and a half ago, my kid's principal at San Diego Unified announced their new elementary school lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer club. I've never been against the club. I just want to know if they showed up to any club for that matter. Why? They're 6. They can be having discussions about their sexuality, being a bisexual, sexual attraction. I want to be involved in that. I want to follow up. I'm an involved dad. But I respectfully asked the principal to be notified, and they said no. I go to my first board meeting down in San Diego Unified, pull up, park, turn the corner, flying over the entrance is the Black Lives Matter flag, Juneteenth, and the trans flag. And that's when I knew we had a systemic, radical leftist indoctrination problem in our public education system that is so deep, any change would be insurmountable undertaking. The school board ignored me, and I was jeered at by the crowd. I couldn't sleep that night because I had one nagging thought in the back of my head. That is, anyone who wants to hide things from me about my little kids, you're no friend of mine. I felt alone, isolated, and afraid. I reached out to neighboring parent groups, and they had worse problems than me. Some of them gave me the cold shoulder, but I kept showing up and being an asset. I continued traveling around to help, realizing the same bully tactics that some of these districts are doing to them, and the same people who call them slurs like Nazi and bigot, it's the same in every district. I don't want to be here, but they try to hide things from me about my kids, and they're doing it these parents do. But come to find out, my story is their story. I'm a veteran, and I become awestruck by the courage displayed by these parents behind me. They've been slurred, publicly defamed, their jobs and livelihoods targeted, threatened, attacked by Antifa and Glendale, targeted by outside agitators who seek to assert their local power. And now they're sued by the governor of California, who's going to take $1.5 million away from their kids. So fast forward a year and a half, now I'm a member of the Dad Army, the California Parents Unit, and the founder of SoCal Parent Advocacy. Expose, challenge, and resist CRT, radical gender ideology, and vaccine and mass fear in our school. And as of 2 months ago, we have worked with nearly every parent and activist group from the upper reaches of LA County to the southern border of San Diego to carry out our strategic imperative of supporting the local parent groups who are where the rubber meets the road. So I'm glad that Tony Thurman is here to listen to my story, because you know what, Tony? We're growing, we're expanding, and we're not going away. So I'm happy to see you're here. And we're not anti-LGBT, we're not anti-trans, we're not hateful. But Tony, if you want these smut books in your school, with your kids, you go get them from Barnes & Noble and the public library. But you keep that in your own home. And if you want to hide things from parents, sir, that's where we draw the line. That's where we draw the line, and we're not going to take it anymore. I'll see you at the podium.
Oh, my God.
All right. I know I'm cutting it short. I also wanted to get in Jason Jones. This is kind of has to deal with the border. He is a border expert, and he is working with so many great congressmen and senators like Chip Roy. And one bill that they're trying to get by is the turning the cartels into FTOs, which is a foreign terrorist organization, because there's a lot of human and drug trafficking coming across. Jason is a Newsmax border correspondent. He was also a captain in the Border Patrol. And he's dedicated his life to doing this. And this is an interview that I did with him about 8 to 10 months ago, I believe. So,
Gents, I broke this story in February of 2021. What you are witnessing right now is how emboldened Cartel de Golfo, also known as CDG, has become. That they created a process, and this is what you're witnessing. In the beginning, when this started in February, when we broke it, there were only a few of these colored wristbands. Each one represents a different alien smuggling organization working directly for Cartel de Golfo, also known as CDG. And the reason they did this is because just as law enforcement was dealing with overwhelming numbers, so were they. So they created a process by which they put these wristbands on men, women, and children. If you see this one, you see how it's tightened all the way down, but yet it's not broken. Where every single one of these I'm holding are broken, because when they cross into the U.S., they just break them and leave them based on guidance from the Gulf. So this one's not, because it's on a child. And when they cross on a child, you see it all the time. Little kids just slip them right off and drop them, because that's what the parents are telling them to do. Anyway, so what this represents is when you go into a stash house in Miguel Alemán on the Mike side, you give what's known as your PII, or personal identifying information. You give them all the information you have on your driver's license or host nation where you come from, and then your family's information. Once they get that, plus where you're going, or at least they validated enough to their degree, they're going to put one of these on you. And I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm going to hold this up. Tell me, can you see that number? It's a number right here. Anyway, that number goes, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, that number goes in the database.
4411.
It's assigned to a migrant, okay? It's assigned to a migrant. Then they wear this, and this allows them 3 crossings. So they come across, if they get picked up by Border Patrol and they come from a country that they're not allowed to stay, and they're kicked back, and then they get 2 more. If they are just from, any place other than Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador, those 4 countries are the only 4 countries not allowed to stay in this country. Everyone else is allowed to stay. So those folks have to go back. So they get with the amount of money that they spend, and if you're a Mexican citizen, it's about $2,500 just to cross that river. If you're Central American, it's $3,000. If you're Chinese, it's $5,000. If you're Middle Eastern or Russian, it's about $9,000. That's just across the river. And so that's what this represents. And what we are talking about is debt bondage. We're not talking about human smuggling, because Most of these migrants, hell, most Americans don't have that kind of money. So now they're indebted to these people. They are allowed to come into the United States. CBP picks them up, moves them throughout the United States, but yet they are indebted to a criminal organization in a foreign country for years to come. And if you would have told me that here we would be this much later in time, in October of 2022, and no one would have shut down these operations, I would be stunned, but here we are. Every night you can go to Roma, Texas and watch anywhere from 80 to about 300 to 500 men, women, and children cross in one line as CDG sends them across into the US. And then once all resources, law enforcement are focused on these families, then they send the runners. Those are people who come from those 4 countries I just identified, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. If they get through, then that's when they move the high values and the dope. It's all a process. So when you see on news, I just laugh. You know, I see some of these journalists go down and stick a microphone in these families' faces and they tell a heart sob story. But what they don't realize is the operations occurring around them and how controlled these things really are. Coming across and with these wristbands and the car.
So in 2020, you received a direct message from a cartel member on Twitter saying they were coming after you to kill you.
Correct. Make no doubt, this is the threat of the 21st century. I'll say it again and again. What we're witnessing within Mexico, within the cartels, and at the border is the largest U.S. intelligence failure since 9/11. That's exactly why I'm traveling this country every day, trying to show what is really happening and speaking to audiences all over the nation. If Americans knew what we're up against, the threats that we face, no one would be okay with this. At that time, I was then working as a captain, and I would travel to Washington. I was traveling every other week, trying to warn the U.S. intelligence agencies and leadership, the highest levels of our government. We've got problems. We've got problems. And every time they would tell me, oh, but Jason, as long as it stays in Mexico. And then another mass murder. Oh, but Jason, as long as it stays in Mexico. Then last year, Sinaloa cartel, 70 miles in the United States, carrying a 50 caliber Barrett rifle, fully kitted, on Interstate 10 between Phoenix and Tucson. Ah, but Jason, they keep telling me, as long as it stays in Mexico. Well, it's not in Mexico anymore. They now killed over 100,000 Americans. And right now, they would tell you the same thing. I talk to mothers and fathers across this country that lost the people they love the most in this world to fentanyl, to methamphetamine. What these cartels have done to so many American families, to so many families in Mexico, and to so many migrants is absolutely unacceptable. These cartels will not stop. They're going to have to be stopped. I lost everything to do this. Everything. A lot of people don't know. When I went, after I retired, I was homeless. I mean, I literally lived out of an RV trying to do this, to make this shift, to fix this. So I've invested everything I am into this. You want to know what's really happening? Follow us. Follow me, and I'll show you what's really taking place on that border. I'm not listening to anybody anymore. I'm Jason Jones.
I think that's my last one.
Tell America.
I'll read one more thing, then we'll wrap this up. And this is my message about Dad Army. I want to say thank you to Jason for agreeing to let me put his content up. He's a great individual down there fighting along that border. He's working well with our team at Veterans for Child Rescue. And, Mom and Dad Army are also beaconing it out as well. This is the reason why I joined, all these organizations as an ally. They are fierce warriors, and I'm just proud to be able to do this every day. I wish we didn't have to, because, this is not stuff that should be having to do. Parents would do the right thing. And if we start doing all the right stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, fathers and allies, today I stand before you to call to attention to a cause that blinds us all, regardless of where we come from or what our beliefs may be. Our children's future, their dreams, and their rights are at stake, and it is our duty as fathers, as parents, to rise up and to protect them. In every child's eyes lies a world potential, a spark that needs to be nurtured and guarded. We must join hands to ensure that every child, every son and daughter has the opportunity to grow and thrive without fear, without hindrance, and without discrimination. That's why I invite you to join our coalition, the Dad Army, a movement of fathers united with one common goal: to stand up for our children's rights and create a brighter future for them. But we are not alone in this fight. Alongside us is the Mom Army and a group of strong, dedicated women who are working tirelessly to empower our children and each other. Let us support them to their battle is our battle too. Let us march together, men and women alike, towards a world where every child has a chance to succeed and every family has the support they need. The Dad Army is not about dividing, it's about uniting. It's about realizing that our strength lies in our collaboration, our empathy, and our love for our children. Together with the Mom Army, we will build bridges, not barriers. We will show the world that fathers and mothers standing shoulder to shoulder can make a difference. So let's rally together. Let's take up this call to action for our children, for our families, and for the world that values compassion, justice, and equality.